Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. I started my life here, and my goal is to see if there's way better dirt out there that we could be digging for gold. This season almost fell apart completely. With everything going wrong, he decided to focus on an old gold mine shaft in Yukon. This place was so scary that everyone said it was too dangerous to touch. What happened next wasn't just about getting gold from the dirt. It was about finding a secret that had been buried for a long time. Using cool new machines to dig into what the frozen ground was hiding, his team found something that time had kept secret. Their goals were huge. A 5,000 challenge, which they beat easily, and then a 7,000 target, which they beat with a season total of 7,381.1 ounces. What they found wasn't just a win. It was an amazing $75 million treasure. But getting to that point showed something that changed the whole story. They called it Yukon's Impossible Prize. Think about how weird this is. These are guys who fight huge machines, frozen dirt, and the scary wilderness every single day. But some places have such a bad reputation that even they don't want to go there. Stories grow around them, scary tales of danger and disaster that become as much a part of the place as the rocks themselves. The Widow's Cut was one of those scary places. This shaft wasn't just risky, it was totally off limits. No smart miner would even think about it. But the thing about legends is, they don't come from nothing. This wasn't just campfire stories. This mine was deep, wobbly, and really scary. At its center was permafrost. If you've never seen it, picture this. Ground frozen solid for thousands of years. Layers of dirt, stone, and ice stuck together as hard as concrete. They call it permafrost for a reason. Permanent. Parker's crew joked that just a few hours above 35 degrees would change everything. They needed warmth badly. Instead, they were stuck taking apart machines and working in mud while using tons of workers just to keep the plant running. This wasn't normal dirt. This was ground 150 miles below the Arctic Circle that never melts. Digging into it was less like mining and more like breaking through an old castle made of it. And the danger never went away. Picture tons of frozen rock and dirt ready to fall down with the tiniest mistake. One wrong shake from a digger and everything could come crashing down. Foremaners. Good dirt means everything. But here it meant risking lives and jobs in a split second. And if cave-ins weren't scary enough, another killer hid just under the surface. Flooding, melting permafrost, or an underground water source could instantly make the shaft walls weak. Think of the ice as glue holding everything together. Add a little heat and that glue becomes water. Suddenly, your solid wall becomes a rush of mud. And in minutes, millions of dollars of equipment could be swallowed up. With that much danger, no one would blame Parker for walking away. Sure, the stories promised a fortune in gold hidden down there, but was it worth betting lives and a whole season's work? Most would say no. But Parker Schnabel isn't most people. Where others saw disaster waiting to happen, he saw another mountain to climb. He wasn't about to turn his back on this challenge, not when there was a chance to prove himself once again. I started out here wanting to figure out if there was better dirt waiting to be found, but the pressure was already crushing as the harsh Yukon winter hit the gold fields. It felt like the entire season was closing in on Parker and his crew. Their machines were breaking down all the time, and getting new parts was really hard. Pipes froze on them over and over, each one a fight against the freezing cold. To even have a chance of making progress, they needed long periods of warmth, at least 4 hours above 35 degrees F. But the weather wasn't helping them out. And yet, sitting around and waiting was never a choice. In gold mining, time really means money. Every lost day meant their profits went away like water through their fingers. Suddenly alarms went off. Tyson, shut it down. One yelled. Something had gone wrong. The wash plant was breaking loose, about to bring the entire operation to a stop. The first goal was hard enough, 1,000 ounces for the season. But now, staring at disaster, they were talking about pushing towards 7,000. It was an almost impossible dream given what was happening, but Parker wasn't the type to give up. One way or another, they were going after that gold. This wasn't a fight they could win with just strength. Parker knew the only way forward was with smarts and technology. If raw power couldn't crack the Widow's Cut, then drones and fancy systems might. Taking on the challenge was one thing. Beating it was totally different. Here's where modern tools gave them an edge the old gold rush miners could never have dreamed of. Back then, it was just picks, shovels, and toughness. Parker's team still had their diggers and wash plants, but this time they brought out their real secret weapon, super cool sky surveying. At the heart of it was LiDAR, light detection and ranging. This technology uses lasers to scan the ground, sending out millions of light beams every second. Each beam bounces back, painting a perfect three-dimensional picture of the land. The awesome thing about LiDAR is it can cut through obstacles, trees, bushes, layers of loose dirt, and show what's really hidden under the surface. But they didn't stop there. They mixed LiDAR with high-tech drone mapping, and the results were amazing. It was the kind of cool invention miners had been trying and failing to perfect since the 1980s. At first, the plan was simple: dig a brand new entrance. A fresh shaft or ramp might go around the dangers, but with shaky permafrost and constant flooding risks, that idea was turning out to be too dangerous, too expensive, and too slow. "It's a gamble we'll just have to take," one crew member said. But even they knew every hour wasted was using fuel, paying wages, and wasting time with no gold to show for it. If they didn't solve this puzzle, the entire season would turn into money disaster. Their only hope was cracking the widow's cut. And fast. That's when technology paid off in a way nobody could have guessed. When the LiDAR and drone information were totally processed, it showed something incredible. For decades, the wilderness had hidden it, keeping it from the eyes of miners. But now the lasers had cut through time and plants, showing a forgotten path straight into the treasure. Buried under layers of earth and thick bushes were the remains of an old straight-down shaft. This leftover carved out nearly 100 years earlier had been eaten up by nature until nothing was visible on top. But now the information told the truth. The collapsed shaft still went more than 40 meters deep. A straight line into the ground. Parker and his team had been desperate to reach. That shaft went more than 130 feet down into the frozen ground. For Parker's crew, it wasn't just a hole. It was their one real way in. After looking at the situation, they realized their best chance, maybe their only chance, was to make the collapsed shaft stronger and turn it into a door they could use. The job was scary, and the pressure from above was never-ending. Everyone expected ski-high results, almost impossible. But Parker's team pushed forward with strong steel beams and the steady hands of experienced miners. They managed to make the shaft strong just enough to go down safely into the dark belly of the mine. You could feel the change in mood. After weeks of staring at dead ends, they finally had a pathway thattled right to the gold they had been chasing. The impossible suddenly looked possible, and what they found at the bottom was beyond anything they had to dream. In just 3 days, they would stumble into a 10 million discovery. It didn't take long once the shaft was safe. At the bottom, they hit something legendary, an untouched quartz-rich vein of gold. This find wasn't just good, it could completely turn their season around. The vein sparkled with visible ribbons of gold locked inside the milky white quartz. Parker's rock expert, who had seen countless gold deposits over his career, called it the cleanest, purest vein he had ever seen. After the first amazement wore off, the team got right to work. They knew they couldn't waste even a second. In the Klondike, news of a discovery spreads like wildfire. If competitors heard about this strike, they might rush in to challenge the claim. The pressure to move quickly was crushing, so the crew threw themselves into non-stop work. Mike worked the hill, bringing in load after load while everyone else pushed themselves to their breaking point. The results were incredible. In just 72 hours, 3 non-stop days and nights, they pulled out more than 4,000 ounces of gold from that single vein. Think about that. 1,000 ounces equals 275 pounds of pure gold. To put it in perspective, many hole mining operations don't make that much in a season. One single cleanup alone gave them 38.6 ounces, worth an amazing $66,000, and that was just from a small section of gold dirt. By the time they added it all up, the value of that first haul topped $10 million. That strike alone could pay for their fuel, worker salaries, and transport costs for most of the season, and still leave millions in profit. For the crew, it was the kind of payoff that miners dream about, but rarely see. Parker himself took a moment to thank his crew, saying that it took everyone's toughness and hard work to pull it off. But the story didn't end there. Once they studied the vein more carefully, they realized it was way bigger than they first thought. Their math showed that the vein probably went for another 2 kilometers, about 1.25 miles further underground. Suddenly, the size of their find went from awesome to unbelievable. When they did the math, thinking about the vein's thickness and richness, the answers hocked them. That single vein could hold another 75 million in gold. A discovery like that would make this not just a good season, but the most successful season in gold rush history. But news travels fast in the Yukon, sometimes too fast. Whispers about Parker's strike spread like lightning through the Klondike. Other miners, rival crews, and even government workers started asking questions. Everyone wanted to see what Parker had found, Luckily, Parker was ready. He'd already locked down the claim legally, making sure the ground washers and his alone. No one else would get a piece of it. Not now, not ever. Still, curiosity was buzzing across mining camps and supply towns. People wondered out loud, was this the biggest gold strike of the century? From the outside, it might look like pure luck, but the truth was way grittier. Behind the headlines were sleepless nights, non-stop pressure, and knowing that one mistake could bring everything crashing down. This wasn't just a gold strike, it was a bomb ready to explode. Meanwhile, Parker's crew kept working. Mitch worked night shifts to keep Big Red running while Parker watched the numbers go up. He now needed only 174 ounces to hit the 7,000 season goal. But with success came new problems. The weight of everyone expecting more doubled, and all eyes were on him. The question now was whether Parker could handle the fame, the greed, and the competition that came with such a legendary discovery. Success like this doesn't just bring clapping. It brings jealousy, competition, and the temptation to take bigger and riskier bets. And the ripple effects were already spreading. Land prices in the Klondike could go through the roof. New miners might flood the area, hoping to strike it rich themselves. It was like dropping a huge rock into a calm lake. The shockwaves would travel far, but Parker wasn't distracted. This was the moment he had been chasing for years, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. He had survived bad seasons before. Fought equipment breakdowns, frozen ground, and impossible odds. But this was different. This was the chance to cement his place as something more than a miner. This was the chance to become a legend. Some might say luck carried him. Others would argue it was gut feeling. But the truth was simple. Super cool tech, rock-solid determination, and the guts to go where others wouldn't had turned a deadly shaft into one of the greatest jackpots in modern mining history. Parker Schnabel had rolled the dice on a $75 million gamble and won. His bold strike wasn't just a payday. It was history meant to be told for generations. The moment he stepped into the history books as the new king of the Klondike. Well, you set a 5,000 ounce goal and crushed it. You set a 7,000 goal and passed it. The final season totals 7,381.1 ounces. But success comes with shadows. Has Parker's win painted a target on his back? Has his victory invited a whole new kind of danger? Let us know what you think in the comments.